Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder if being in a group makes you more likely to bend the rules or even cheat? That's the big question this study dives into, and it's super interesting when we think about things like taxes or even just working in teams. So this paper is all about dishonesty, especially when people are working together. We know that breaking the rules or being dishonest can cost companies and even entire societies a lot of money. Think about tax fraud, for instance. That's a big one. Some research has shown that when people make decisions as a group or feel like they're part of a team, they might actually become more dishonest than if they were just making decisions on their own. But what can we do to stop this? Scientists have tried a bunch of things to reduce dishonesty. One common idea is punishment, like making people pay a fine if they get caught. But the results here are kind of all over the place, and we're not always sure if punishment works, especially when people are working in groups. So, these researchers wanted to figure out exactly how different kinds of punishment affect dishonesty, both when people are acting alone and when they're in a group. Here is how they set up their experiment. They got over 700 people to play an online game that was like a tax evasion game. Imagine you're part of a company, and for 5 rounds you have to report how much money the company made. To raise a tax on this money. The catch is you could lie and report less money to pay fewer taxes, which would make your company look more successful in the short term. They changed a few key things, what they call manipulations. First, they looked at who benefits from the dishonest act. Was it just the person playing, or was it the whole group of 3 people? Second, they played with the idea of punishment. Sometimes there was no risk of getting caught, and other times there was a 30% chance of being audited. And third, they messed with how people were punished. If someone got caught cheating, would just that one person get punished, or would the whole group have to pay a penalty? Now, for the exciting part, what did they find? Well, here is something surprising. They thought people would be more dishonest when the payoff was for the whole group, especially when there was no punishment. But it turned out the opposite happened. When the money earned was for the group, people were actually more honest and paid their taxes. This is a bit different from what some earlier studies suggested. But something they predicted did happen. When there was a risk of punishment, people were definitely more honest. This makes sense, right? Knowing you might get caught and fined makes you think twice. They found that this risk of punishment increased how honest people were by about 14 percentage points. That's a pretty noticeable effect. And here is another really interesting finding. They thought that punishing an individual might be more effective than punishing the whole group, because it's more directly linked to the person who misbehaved. But the results showed that group punishment, where the whole team gets penalized, was actually better at stopping dishonesty. It increased honesty by about 5.6 percentage points more than punishing just one person. This is pretty counterintuitive and suggests that maybe the idea of letting the whole group down or seeing everyone else suffer because of one person as actions is a bigger deterrent. And the cool thing is, this effect of group punishment being more powerful seemed to hold true whether the money was individual or group-based. So what does it all mean? Well, this study gives us pretty solid evidence that punishment, especially when there is a risk of getting caught, really can help reduce dishonesty. And surprisingly, punishing the whole group seems to be a more powerful tool than just punishing the individual who messes up. This challenges some older economic ideas that focus only on the rational calculation of whether you'll get caught. It seems like social and group consequences play a huge role. Now, no study is perfect, and it is important to talk about the limitations here. The game they used, while based on real-world tax situations, is still a simplified version. Also, they didn't let the participants talk to each other or coordinate their reports between game rounds, which might be a big reason why they didn't see more dishonesty in the group setting. In real life, teams often communicate and plan together, and that could change how dishonesty plays out. Plus, a lot of people had to be excluded from the study because they didn't understand the game rules, which could affect the final results. But despite those limitations, the implications are pretty big. For companies and governments trying to prevent dishonesty, this suggests that focusing on group accountability might be more effective than traditional individual punishments. Think about corporate responsibility laws, for example. While punishing the whole group might seem unfair to innocent members, it could be a powerful way to deter bad behavior across an entire organization. They also point out that more research is needed to explore other ways to encourage honesty, not just through punishment. So to wrap up, the idea that groups are always more dishonest didn't quite pan out in this specific experiment, mainly because there was no way for the groups to coordinate. However, the power of punishment as a deterrent was clear, and the finding that group punishment was more effective than individual punishment is a real game changer. It really makes you think about how we design rules and consequences in our own lives, whether it is at work, with our friends, or in society as a whole. What do you guys think about this? Have you seen group dynamics affect honesty in your own experiences? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if you found it interesting and subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more science breakdowns. See you next time.